Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Rachel, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach. And I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. Now, guys, I have a very special episode prepared for you this week or today. And it's the second guest that I've ever brought on the show. I'm so excited to introduce to you the beautiful, the fabulous, the wonderful Arianna Messplay. And Arianna was a former client of mine and former student of mine. She was part of my 12-week program and has also done a bit of private intuitive coaching with me as well, so one-on-one coaching. But over the years, we have become really good friends as well. Our values really line up in a lot of ways. And we've discovered not only together just how powerful of a channel that she is, but we've also discovered right off the bat that she is what you would call an earth angel. And you'll see when you get to hear her or see her if you're watching this on YouTube, her aura just radiates beautiful, glowing, healing, loving energy. And that really is everything that she embodies. And I'm so excited to introduce her to you. And as we've gotten to know each other over the years, we've recognized that Arianna is so talented and gifted at being able to recognize and pull out the intuitive abilities of children. And so she and I really bonded over how we both have, she has a 10, almost 11-year-old son who she homeschools, and I intend to homeschool my children. And so we talk a lot about sort of what types of values we want to instill in our children. And she's just a wealth of knowledge in terms of how to encourage the intuitive abilities of your children. And as I always say on this podcast, your intuition is something that you are born with. And this is something that we forget over time if it's not encouraged in our homes when we are growing up. I know that I've told you guys that for me, I did have very spiritual experiences at really young ages, like 2, 3 years old. I remember even being in my crib and having experiences with my guides. But having parents who didn't know anything about this world, they chalked it up to nightmares, right? And so I was sort of told to just ignore it and push it away and don't worry about it. And that's pretty common for most people because it's not sort of common language. It's not common vocabulary in most average households. And so, if you are lucky enough to have a parent who, or to be a parent who is aware of this world and can encourage the intuitive gifts that are so innately and so powerfully evident in our kids, why wouldn't you encourage it? And then you don't have to go through the experiences that many of us go through in this podcast, which is trying to reactivate our intuition later on in life as adults. After many years of suppressing it. And so that's what we're really going to be diving into today. Ariana and I are going to talk all about how is it that we can pull out the innate intuitive abilities of our children. So this one is a little bit for the parents out there. And if you're not a parent, maybe you're a future parent, or maybe you have a kid in your life that you want to love on and support. And I'm hoping that this information, Ariana is such a wealth of knowledge in this category and in this area, and so I'm hoping that it will help you support a kiddo in your life that you just want to love on and help them seek out their intuitive abilities. And it's more than just having them be able to channel their spirit guides. I mean, of course, in my opinion, it's really beautiful to be able to connect with your guides as a compass for your life and to feel so fulfilled and be able to live a very truthful, authentic path in your life. But it's also just so important to be able to connect to your intuition so that you can always identify your own truth, that you know what feels best for you in any situation instead of becoming a people pleaser or someone who looks outward for permission to do the things that they want to do in their life. And that tends to be a lot of the case for many of us who have been through, a typical childhood, right? Regular school, regular family. And although we thank our parents and they've done the best they can with the knowledge they had, there's something to be said about our natural instincts being suppressed over time. And I think it can be so beautiful. And how powerful would it be if everyone in the world grew up with this sense of this inner compass, this really deep connection to what feels like their most authentic truth, and feeling able to really stand up for that and vocalize it and verbalize their wants and needs based on what feels best in their own body. And so that's really what we get into today is how do we do that? And then the other thing that we talk about in this episode is if you're lucky enough to have identified that your child is in fact either an earth angel or a star seed, what does that look like in terms of parenting them? And how do you support them on their journey in that respect? Now, Ariana and I both have starseed children. My son being like her, a little bit more of an earth angel, and her son being a little bit more like a starseed, a galactic being. And so we talk a little bit about the experiences we've had and the channeling that our sons have done already at such young ages and the beautiful wealth of knowledge that they have brought to our lives already in sort of what it looks like when you encourage those conversations in your home. And so I'm really excited for those stories to come out and to share. Just from a proud mama myself, starting to see my own 2-year-old son starting to channel loved ones from our own family, pointing out angels to me and sharing his past lives. And so I'm excited for you to hear all about that. And then, of course, I also just want to underline here that Ariana really is such a beautiful channel herself. She is who you go to if you want to connect to your angels. I know that when we connect to your spirit guides, sometimes angels come through, but Ariana comes from the angelic realm. It is so clear that her soul hails from there, and so her connection to the angelic realm and your angels are, incomparable. And so, if you were ever curious about the beautiful angels that protect you, because I do need to underline here that we all have spirit guides, but we also all have guardian angels, and they're two very different. They have two very different roles that they play in your life, and they really are here for the purpose of protecting you and healing you. And Ariana is so beautiful at connecting to your angels and offering you that beautiful healing that your angels want to bring through. She can sort of um, magnify the healing that your angels are wanting to offer you and have her and she channels them and connects to them, and she can also she'll talk about some of the other things that she does in the episode, but really I encourage you to check out her stuff. I will link all of her information and how you can get a hold of her in the show notes, so that if you are feeling inspired after this conversation and you want to reach out to Ariana to either have her consult on better parenting your starseed child and or how to connect to your angels, I highly recommend that you do so. So without further ado, I can't wait to introduce to you the beautiful Arianna Messplay. Hi, Ariana. Welcome to the Intuition Activation Podcast.
Hi, I'm so grateful to be here and to share this space with you, Jessica.
Ah, me too. I'm so excited that you're here. And you are only my second guest on this podcast. And I'm so excited to have you because you and I have had become pretty good friends over the last couple of years. But we actually met because you were a client of mine a couple of years ago. And I think we connected instantly. Like we had so much in common. And I think you were the first earth angel I had ever met as well. And so I learned a lot about what it was like to kind of have the life experiences that you have, and I have had so many clients since you who kind of resemble your aura in a lot of ways in the work that you do. And it was all based off of my experiences and channeling that I had with you. So I'm so excited to bring you on and to just share my real life example of an earth angel here on the
Oh,
podcast.
well, I have you to thank because your guidance and working with you is what helped me step in and own that I connect with angels, that I'm an earth angel. I still sometimes have trouble owning that, but you were the one who really read for me and made sure I stepped into this. And get to serve people with
Yeah.
connecting with angels. So I really honor your work that I'm only sitting here because and doing the work I'm doing because you really encouraged me. You connected me with my higher self and my angels and really, propelled me forward into, owning my aura and everything.
Oh my goodness, you're gonna make me blush. You're too kind and too sweet. But I do wanna give you a little bit of credit as well, and what I really would love to mention is that, yes, you're an earth angel, and we're gonna talk about what that experience is like, but you're also so nurturing and intuitive with children, and that's what I'm so excited to talk to you about because recently on the podcast, we've really been talking about sort of what is a star seed and what does that look like, and if you have a different soul such as yourself, what can that look like over the trajectory of your life? And how can we then go ahead and support people in our lives that we know that maybe have these kind of different souls or unique souls? And so I want to kind of rewind the clock a little bit and I want to kind of look at your life because we know now as adults that sort of you have this angelic soul who spent a lot of time in the angelic realm. But what did that sort of look like for you as a child? Like, did you know you were intuitive as a kid? Did you have experiences with angels or anything like that growing up? When was sort of the first time that you kind of went, this is different?
Well, that's such a good question. I did not grow up in a household that talked about intuition very much, um, and I knew what angels were, from a religious sense. But what's funny is I would, since I grew up in a religious household, I would pray to my angels every night, and I had two angels with a name that I
Mm,
named. And I always thought one of them was, um, my grandmother, my dad's mom who passed. And I literally would talk to her every night. And as maybe before I have memory, I could see her, but always felt her. It
mhm,
makes me tear up. But
yeah.
I could always feel her. And so I always felt held, but I didn't, I would tell my dad that I prayed to her every night,
Mhm.
and that she was with me, but there was never, so no one ever affirmed it for me. I just would talk to her and felt her there. Uh, at my sixth grade graduation, my I came down from, you sit on that platform, and I came down, and my dad said, he was crying, and I was like, you know, all right, what's wrong, dad? And he was just like, I saw my mom. You looked like my mom up there. And
Aw.
so I do look a little bit like his mom. However, I do think she had presented herself to him, and that she was sitting with me. And in that day, he could see her up there.
Wow.
So it was a moment where I could, okay, I'm not making this up. She's with me. And so I carried that forward for a long time, but I never like pieced it together until really adulthood. Like, wow, I am really um, connecting with her, connecting with other angels. And I've always felt this sense of I'm going to be okay. Um, but I didn't know why, you know, until I started on my spiritual journey and was like, oh, I've been channeling this. I've been with these beings, and so I've never really felt alone. Um, so and then maybe we'll get into, but there have been in my to bring it back to memory because I do think part of my journey was to disconnect a little or not always be aware of my full connection and to journey back to remembering.
Yeah.
So, in adulthood, I've had some very profound experiences to remind me what
Yeah.
I was really here for. So,
And I would love to talk about those, but I think that for our listeners also, it'd be really helpful as well to sort of talk about what instigated your spiritual awakening. Because for you guys, I mean, a lot of you guys know that for me, it was a pretty big rock bottom moment, right? I was, car crash followed by ski accident, right? Job ripped away from me, right? Lots of things that kind of made me stop and take a deeper look at my life and then kind of realize that maybe I'd been ignoring all the signs all along, and that really propelled me into this big, couple of year journey of developing my intuition. Did you you sort of have a moment like that, or what kind of instigated your intuitive, or spiritual awakening?
Mine is similar in the sense it was a rock bottom.
Okay.
Um, I was in a relationship and married, and I was really, really depressed. And it was with a very tough personality type. I don't want to label, but a very tough personality type. And I was not on my path like you. I was having health issues, just everything. I was miserable at home. And I'm really going to air it all out here. It was um, while I was in that relationship, I started to awaken and was working with a life coach that was bringing some major awareness to me and inner awareness and bringing me back to my real spirituality. And 7 months into that marriage, something I was ready to go. Something had just sparked in me that I needed to leave. I'm not on my path. And what really sparked um, is that my current husband kissed me.
Ooh.
So I realized I was not on path, and I should say that my current husband and I have like a soul connection. Like um, we felt it from the beginning that there was like this awkward, it's like almost like this awkward meeting, like you know each other but you don't know each other.
Mhm.
And so I will say that my husband was kind of, I was already starting the journey, but the universe placed him at that time to cause a gigantic spark for me to like be like, whoa, I'm really off path and
Mm.
I need to switch gears really quickly. And
Right.
I did. My gears were switched. I was a lawyer at the time. I stopped being a lawyer. Um, I became a stepmom and started my path to motherhood. And motherhood, I would say, was my journey back to being my intuitive gifts and remembering who I really am.
Wow.
So I have to give a lot of credit to my husband because he like like you see people really clearly. He saw me so clearly and has always like held that for me to remind me like who I really am.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And I can see there's emotion welling up because there really is such true love. And, in the few years that I've known you, anytime you talk about your husband, I'm just like, man, that is a soulmate. Yeah, you guys
Yes.
really do see each other. Yeah. And so I would also really love to pinpoint that for you it was still a bit of a slow burn though, kind of getting to this place where you are now, which is sort of working with clients and helping them, connect with their angels, and you kind of channeling information from angels for them for healing. And we have also discovered with you that there's a lot of healing energy that comes through you, and right, you're just so magical. But it took a little while for you to realize that, right? That there's more than just like an awareness. Because I think that if we talk about your spiritual awakening, especially, upon meeting your husband, Gary, like there was sort of like this, there was two layers to it. One was an awareness that those things are real. And then the second layer was, oh, I actually connect to, interact with, and am one of them. Right? Like, I feel like that's a whole other layer there. And so can you tell us a little bit more about sort of your experiences in adulthood that kind of made you feel like maybe there's more to this? Maybe I need to pursue, you always say it so nicely, the intuitive arts. And what kind of propelled you towards that?
You know, motherhood started it because I was working with a mentor who, your only way to connect with your baby is intuitively and telepathically. I mean,
Yeah.
for any, even if you're adopting, right? Whether they're in your body or you're adopting, your way of connecting is through telepathic, intuitive connections.
Yeah.
And so, motherhood. started it. And even I have bonus children. I don't call them I don't like to call them stepchildren. I have bonus children, and they are really my first because I was in their lives before my son Garrison came. And right, we weren't always together. So part of feeling into, are they doing okay at school? Is everything okay with them? Is I had to feel in um,
Mm.
and s- trust what I was sensing. Are they okay? Are they not okay? Do they need something? Um, because I didn't want to be an annoying stepmom and text them all the time to check on them. Um, so I really, stepmotherhood and motherhood was like the initiation back into, this is your intuition. This is how you receive messages. But it was like you said, it was a slow burn for me because I had a lot of trouble trusting what I was receiving, since I'm a feeler.
Mhm.
And a lot of the time, I couldn't tell if it was mine or someone else's. And even to this day, that still happens where I pick it up very fast and it's not mine. And I'm trying to figure out where I picked it up from. So it has been a learning process of how I receive my information. But it really did start motherhood, pregnancy, and pregnancy was a really deep dive into communicating with my son in the womb, hearing his messages, and that connection. And even to this day, we play intuitive games because he actually likes to do that. We call it kithing, and we think of something, and I'm trying to figure out what he's thinking, and so we'll play intuitive games together to um, keep that connection, that telepathic and intuitive connection up. But um, he's a feeler, my son, but he's also clairvoyant. So that's always fun to work with. He'll see, and I'm not always seeing, I'll hear and feel. So um, I would say motherhood, which I know you've talked about on your podcast, was really the start, diving back in to how I'm receiving messages, what it feels like. And then there have been, when I reopened back up to, okay, maybe I need to listen more outside of just in my parenting. Like I focused mostly on, I'm using my intuitive gifts just for parenting.
Right. Right.
Um, and then the big event when I was like, oh, am I really getting information from other people or other realms? It
Mhm.
was when I got the confirmation. It was actually my birthday, when my father-in-law, was passing, and most people are like, "Oh my gosh, he passed on your birthday," and to me, it was he was giving me a gift.
Oh.
So, I'm just so grateful for his name's Paul. He's very special to me, and he's one of the first he would call me an angel. And so I was like, "Oh, he's so sweet. Why is he always calling me an angel?" But he was seeing and trying to get me to remember too. And when he was passing, um, I kept hearing this whisper all day. I just sat at his feet and didn't, you know, want to intervene. I'm not a biological child. I'm just the in-law. So I just kept hearing this voice saying, "Go talk to him. He wants to talk to you." Even though he wasn't conscious at the time, and I just like would not listen to the voice. I was just like, no, 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 it's not my place. It's not my place. And there was a pause in the evening, and everyone went to sit down. And I asked my mother-in-law, "Is it okay?" I felt this like push, like, if you don't like go, you need to go talk to him. And I asked my mother-in-law, "Is it okay if I go stand with him right now?" And she's like, "Of course." And I just heard what to say to him and put my hand on his heart. And that's when he passed. Um, s- so it makes me emotional because I loved him so much. And he was gifting me. You are hearing, it is channeled messages. Like, you have to trust it.
Yeah.
So, I always say it was a really blessed birthday. So that's kind of how, and that's when that was the beginning of 2020. And I just was like, okay, I have to dive in hardcore into really tuning my gifts and finding mentor to like hold my hand to really trust this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I know it makes you emotional every time, but it really is so beautiful because sometimes it's in those sort of transition periods, right, where a soul is literally leaving the body that um is when we have, I mean, in that room and in the presence of that, the veil is so thin, right? And we can just really connect and tap in. And that is something that you are so particularly gifted at, whether it's a soul coming into a body, so being born, or a soul kind of leaving this world. I mean, I know it was you who I was texting when I. When I went into labor with Benny, because I knew that you were going to hold that space for me energetically and help bring this little boy into the world, with ease. And it really, right, you were the only person I let know, other than my husband, that it was happening. And because you have such like this capacity to usher souls sort of in and out of this world in a really beautiful way. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I do want to backtrack just a little bit because one of the biggest reasons I wanted to bring you onto the show today is because of the beautiful work you do with your son Garrison and encouraging his intuitive abilities. And I really think, I mean, you know that I will harp all day long on this podcast that we are all intuitive, that we're all born with it. And through socialization, it kind of gets taken away from us or socialized out of us and trained out of us. And what you're doing with your son is that you're encouraging it in so many ways. And from the stories you've told me, I mean, he is just already such a brilliant channel. And it's really such a testament to the parenting that you're doing. And so I really want us to kind of take some time for the parents who are listening to this show. How can we start to support our children in continuing to remember their intuitive abilities, not even starting them because we know they're there, they're born with them. How do we encourage and continue them with our kids?
Oh, I love this because I mean, I had to learn it too, right? Because it didn't, most households don't talk about intuition or like do things to keep our intuition going. They tend to stifle it a little because of just modern day way we live and culture. But so I've learned it. I've remembered. I like, you always remind me we're remembering.
Yeah.
And so one of the main things I have to say is that nothing our children say is crazy.
Yeah.
Every like mm, um and nothing they're seeing is crazy. It's real. For them, it is real. And to listen to everything they say and honor it. So, especially when they're very little, babies, toddlers, they are likely still seeing, like talk, they are seeing their spirit guides, they are seeing angels. They're still so connected to the other side, um, the,
Mhm.
oth- the other side of the veil, and to spirit, that they will say things that don't seem like it went with what was just going on, and it's likely a channeled message. Or they say something that you're like, "How would they even know that?"
Right.
I would say, "Don't question how do they." Well, sometimes I do. I'm like, "How do you know that, Garrison?" When he says something, and he's like, "I just know." He's
Mhm.
like, "I just know it." And I'm like, you know, I say, "You just have to trust that they just know." They know, they see, and they're seeing things that we don't see. Um, and I'll just like my son. was in the bath. This is one of my most vivid where I really was like, don't ask too many questions, just like let it be.
Mhm.
Um, is that he was in the bath and I had to run out to grab, I forgot to bring the towel into the bath. And I ran to get the towel, and my husband asked me a question, answer him. So I'm gone for like a few moments, come back, and I slowly walked back in the bathroom because he was like talking. And I was like, "What's he talking to?" Which is he talks to himself all the time. And since he was a baby, he would babble in bed, like talking to things.
Mm.
So, and I just trust, I had to trust he was talking to somebody, and so I just was like listening, and he was having this full conversation.
Wow. How
And
old was
I,
he then?
3, I think
Okay.
he's 3. I'm trying, because I know the bathroom we were in, he's 3, maybe almost 4.
Mm.
And then I came in and I just said, "Who were you talking to?" And he was like, "Jesus." And I was like, "Okay." Um, you know, and we didn't talk a lot. Like, we're not a religious household, we're a spiritual household. But so like at this point, he's heard Jesus, but he doesn't know stories or anything very
Mhm.
much yet. So this is like out of the blue.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah, we are just talking," and Jesus just comes and talks to you. And I said, "Oh, what were you talking about?" And he's like, "Stuff." But and then Garrison like giggled, and he's like, "He did say Garrison Christ." And I was like, "What did you say?" And he was like, "Garrison Christ." And like Garrison's like laughing. And I just I had to like roll with it with him, but even though I was like in shock. And what I realized was, so many star seed and whatever we want to call them, crystal children, star seed, rainbow child, um, they come in really connected, what I'm experiencing, to Christ consciousness,
Mm.
which, you know, we which is really just a love, an unconditional love consciousness. And so what I think he was expressing is like, you know, this ascended master talking to him, reminding you children carry this frequency. Um, and I, so that's why I say you just have, whatever comes out of their mouth is is real to them, and it is real. It's just we've been trained like that. Those things don't happen to people, those kind of things only happen to Jesus or these ascended masters. But these children are coming in with these deep connections and reminders that, like, we can channel that consciousness. They are trying to mirror that consciousness to us. So, really just rolling with the things they say, rolling with the things they see, and ask them questions, because there will be um, really important and wise wisdom seeds in there.
You guys, I have to interrupt this episode to tell you about an amazing mineral based sunscreen brand that I have been loving to use this summer. This sunscreen brand is called Mama Soul, and it has been created by a beautiful client of mine, and it is so lovely and so fabulous. You guys know that I am super healthy, super crunchy, super conscious, and I don't put anything in or on my body that is not 100% natural, and that includes sunscreen. You guys know that when our skin is our biggest organ, and that anything that we are putting on our skin gets immediately absorbed into our bloodstream. So you absolutely don't want to be putting toxic chemicals that are found in most common sunscreens on your body, because it's getting into your bloodstream and affecting your body in really horrible ways. But Mama Soul is not like that. It is 100% mineral sun care brand that doesn't feel or smell like sunscreen. You guys, I have been on such a long search for sunscreen, a mineral based sunscreen that doesn't turn your face white every time you put it on, because the main active ingredient in mineral sunscreens is zinc. And zinc really, when you put it on, usually it turns your face white. But this stuff, guys, it's amazing. It's you put it on and it's white when you put it on, but when you rub it in, it goes clear and you don't see it. For those of you watching on YouTube, I am wearing the sunscreen on my face right now, and you absolutely cannot tell. It is so beautiful, and it is made with all of these beautiful essential oils. It has a smell of with a subtle hint of lavender, and it's so gorgeous. It encourages you to just take a deep breath in when you use it, and just you feel like you're in a spa. It is so beautiful, and the sensation of putting it on your skin is not sticky. It just feels smooth and soft, like you're putting in your favorite moisturizer or something. It is so, so beautiful. And the packaging is also sustainable. It's packaged in glass whenever possible and sugarcane to reduce petroleum-based plastics. And the formulas are all silicone-free, multitasking, and have all been proven to be safe for sensitive skin with clinical data. There are 3 different types. There is the face sunscreen, the body sunscreen, and the lip oil. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can have a look. And I am wearing the lip oil right now as well. They have come in a couple of different beautiful tints to protect your lips from the sun as well. Guys, I am obsessed with this brand. I've been using it on both me and my kids all summer. It is so beautiful and so clean. Guys, they have recently been featured in Harper's Bazaar, Women's Health, New Beauty, Beauty Independent, BuzzFeed, and so much more. They have won the best mineral sunscreen for dry skin from Women's Health and the top 10 best sunscreens for sensitive skin, and best for pregnant and nursing mothers from Harper's Bazaar. So you guys know that I was using this while pregnant. It is really such a clean brand that feels so luxurious and smells amazing. So I just can't wait to share this with you. If you're ready to grab your first bottle of Mama Soul sunscreen, head over to shopmamasoul.com and grab your first bottle. Guys, this stuff is really, really amazing, and I can't wait for you to try it.
I don't know if you want to share like what Noah shared with
Yeah,
you.
I would
I
love
think
to.
that
Yeah, because you were the first person I messaged when that happened last week, or I think it was last week or the week before, because Noah, he's 2.5, so he's really starting to talk a little bit more clearly now, and yeah, and so I always had a sense that Noah was a bit of an earth angel or a star seed. His soul is definitely a little bit different. And he definitely is intuitive. And I used to notice this when he was really little, that whenever we were just sort of sitting in our bedroom or nursing, he would always look up to one particular corner. I always be like, who are you looking at? He would always only look in that corner. And I always imagined that, and when I did try to tap in, I recognized that he was looking at loved ones who have passed away. My father-in-law who passed away before he was born, I knew he could see things. This is the first time he actually vocalized it. And he started talking about a past life recently. And so we were at the park, and he was just sitting on the swings and kind of gazing off into space, and kind of looks at me and he goes, Mom, before this, I was older. And I was up in the sky and I had wings. And then I had to come down here, and it was really hard to get down. I had to try really hard. And then he said something really cute, like I had to take a rocket ship and a motorcycle, and it was really hard, and I had to come down here. And then when I came down here, I was younger again. And I just went, like, I kind of sat there like gobsmacked, like mouth open, going, wait, tell me that again. And he did. He goes, yeah, I used to be older. I used to be an adult. Like, he didn't say adult. He just used to say, he said, I used to be older. And he goes, and I was in the sky and I had wings, and it was really, really hard to come down here. Yeah,
I
and
love
I
that.
really think that he was talking about his previous incarnation, right? Him being an earth angel or an angel baby, right? And he was up in the sky with wings, and he remembers it. Because I think it's peculiar, right, for a 2-year-old to say, "I used to be older," right? So
Yeah.
that was really, really interesting for me.
That's the other I know that some people don't believe in past life, but children, because they do Noah is an example that they start there's in toddlerhood, and I guess because they can start speaking about it, they do start remembering their past lives, and we've had similar things with Garrison. Um, and it is part of this new wave of children. They're really into, you know, keeping their body like that. They're living forever, and one thing, and my husband and I were like, why? It's okay, like our spirit will live forever. And Garrison is like, no, 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 we're living forever. And we kept asking him, why, you know, why this body? And he said, because I know my lives before this were tough.
Mm.
I've had, and and he started crying. I had some really tough experiences. And this life is so wonderful that I want to keep this life and this body forever.
Wow.
And so it made sense because he was like literally getting very obsessed about living forever and
Mm.
that, like, in this body. And I just couldn't like piece things together. And finally, so it's related to these past life feelings he has. So I love that you like honored for Noah, and I love that he came down on a rocket ship.
I know. That part I was almost like, okay, maybe that was your little, addition to the to the story. But it was very cute. Yeah, and I think we need to underline this a little bit that like it is enough to just continue to encourage the conversation, right? Like that will help them continue to remember. Ask them questions about it, openly accept it, love it, and just don't shut it down. And that will kind of encourage them to keep exploring that train of thought. So, how else can we support our kids in sort of remembering and developing their intuitive abilities?
One other big way that comes to me is always trusting their feelings. You know, I feel like a lot of times we've been told, if a child is like, I'm feeling like my stomach hurts or I'm not feeling okay. Before, maybe in old paradigm, it would be, no, you're fine, you're fine, you're
Mm.
fine. Rather than, like we were talking before, asking a question like, oh, why aren't you feeling okay? Are you feeling something in your body? Are you feeling something around you?
Mm.
Um, because they may not be feeling okay because something's in the environment that we're not noticing, but they're noticing. Or, you know, their stomach is hurting because they had something that, just slightly bothers them, but they feel it on that very subtle level. So I feel like really always honoring whatever they're feeling and is a really crucial part. There was something else that just came while I said that. It was not only, trusting their intuition about other people.
Mm.
I
Tell
will
me more about
say
that.
I am not a very good example of this as a people pleaser, and my son has had to teach me, like, if you don't like the vibes, you don't have to be around it.
Mm.
And since he was little, and even I would say even my bonus children have taught me that, a bit, So, and reflected that, and, you know, we're so, society is very big on your kids need to be social. They need to have kids in their peer group, right? They need to be with their peers. And um, so I would push Garrison into like, we should be with this group. We should be this is just be friendly. Just go play with the neighbors, all these things. And he would be like, nope, nope. And he would go play by himself. And that I would then just keep pushing. And finally, it was probably my husband was like, just trust that it's not his people.
Mhm.
And he can read people really well and their energy and what he wants to be around and what he doesn't. And the funny thing is, so can I, but I will just push myself and be like, it's okay, it's okay. I can handle it. Or I'm supposed to be nice. We're
Mhm.
supposed to be nice and just be around it. And so I really, a big one is trusting if they don't want to be around a certain kid or a certain person or hug a certain person at that time, you really have to honor it because they may be feeling and sensing something that right now you're not picking up, or for you, it's okay, but for them, it's not. And so, and there is a time and space depending on their age to ask, why are you feeling something, and investigate more. And but I do, a lot of it is about trusting them and not overriding their feelings, their thoughts, things going on in their body. And that even goes for like going to the doctor. If the doctor's like, oh, they're probably experiencing this, you let your child say what they're experiencing. No one else gets to tell them what their experience is, because that's part of how intuition and our connection with our body and spirit gets overridden, is everyone telling us what we're thinking, feeling, who we should be around, what's okay around us, what's not okay. Each person knows, right? They and kids are a really good judge. Like when someone's in a bad mood, you'll watch a baby not want to be held by them. You'll watch a child move away,
Mhm.
and not hug that person. And we don't have to. Hi, Benny. Benny is agreeing with me.
Yeah, sorry guys, we have Benny here with us in the recording. He's sitting in my lap, he came for a snack.
And
Yeah.
and Benny is agreeing because I really, at times, I've really had trouble with this,
Yeah.
um, and letting, you know, like, especially the social things
Mhm.
just flow the way, and trust that it's his judgment, his feelings, his intuition about who's right for him and who's not.
Yeah. And on the other side of that, um, also trusting when they gravitate towards somebody as well. I remember when I was a kid, and this used to happen to me so much as a kid that people were always floored that I remember this used to happen a lot. So my family, we used to go to synagogue every Saturday. And there would be different families there each time. Sometimes there were a lot of the same ones, but sometimes there were new ones. And there were anytime somebody brought a baby, they would reach over their mother's shoulder if I was sitting behind them to try and come to me. And their mother would always say to me, this would happen so many times. My mother would say, that's so weird. She never reaches for anyone but me. She has mummy-itis, right? And this would happen for me time and time again. Babies like crawling up to me, wanting to be held by me when I was a kid. And the parents going, that's so strange. My baby's normally very shy or doesn't really like that. And they can sense, not to kind of like toot my own horn here, but they can sense when someone has an aura that they trust as well, or an energy that they trust. And so you can almost use them as like a little like compass, so to speak, of like who to trust, who not to trust. And some people tell me puppies are like that too.
Yeah, cats, I know you're not a cat person, but cats the same, they will move away. You know,
Right.
you they sense energy, so it's who
Yeah.
they're drawn to, who they're not drawn to.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised the children in synagogue were, like, reaching for you. That's how I felt when I entered your aura. I was like,
Yeah.
"This person is someone I need to be around all the time." So,
You're so
that's
sweet.
no, it's you have such a healing, supportive, loving aura. And as we know,
Healing
like,
is
you're like the
mutual,
mix of
Ariana.
everything.
Sorry, what was that?
No, you're like the mix of everything, angel, star, seed, crystal, everything.
I know, yeah, my soul is a little bit of a unique one. I think we're discovering that, like, you can't even identify it as one specific thing, but there's definitely it's a mixed bag for sure. But that actually brings me perfectly to my next topic, which is that we know for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that your son Garrison is what we would classify as a star seed. And he's just so, I mean, there's so many sort of telling traits, I would say, that kind of make that very clear to us. Do you mind talking a little bit about that and sharing, like, how is it that you sort of knew this about him? And are there any things that he sort of does that you kind of go, oh man, like you're such a star seed?
Let's see, and he'll like, if he ever listens to this, he'll be mad that he's even being labeled anything, so we'll just say,
Okay. We aren't labeling you,
"We're
Garrison.
not
It's
labeling
fine.
anything." Um, you know, one of the key, and all children are sensitive.
Mhm.
However, star seeds, crystals, rainbow children, they're extra sensitive. And they, you know, it could be I know people have a slightly different opinion. One person that talks about this topic, she thinks that they're not sensitive to foods and they can eat whatever and they're immune to kind of, but that hasn't been my experience. I find I like Garrison's highly sensitive to certain foods and chemicals and those kind of things. So they tend to be sensitive, not only like physically, like their body wants high vibrational foods,
Mhm.
um, and maybe allergies show up and that kind of stuff because of the things down here that they're not so used to.
Mhm.
So sensitivity on like the emotional, spiritual sense too. And uh, they tend to be give off the vibe of a very old soul, like with lots of wisdom, saying things beyond their years at times. But some don't speak very early, right? So there's two. Some don't speak very early and are more telepathic at the beginning, and
Mhm.
then you may have some saying things, wise beyond their years. Um, trying to think.
Don't even
All
have to generalize it. I mean, you can just
that.
talk about your own son and what you've
Okay.
noticed in him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's extremely sensitive. The normal institutional structures do not work for him.
Mm.
And I do think that's a piece of why tons of starseed, rainbow, crystal children are coming right now is that we're in a big awakening time and they're here to kind of assist in the switch of a lot of things on earth. And they're the reflection and the helpers to do that. And so things like school may not be the place for them. Their arbitrary rules do not work for star seeds. They're very independent in certain ways, free thinkers. They're going to challenge everything you say.
Yeah. Mm.
It can be um, really, they can be very challenging to parent.
Mhm.
And I say that I don't find it challenging if he ever listens to this. I don't find Garrison challenging to parent. However, I have him as an only child. And I can
Mhm.
imagine how I do things with him. If there were more, it would be even harder, to manage.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
let him, he gets a say. There is no hierarchy in our family. And because he would not stand for that, you know, he knows he's older than me and my husband in soul years, and he's told us that. Um,
Of course he has.
he's like, I'm older than you. I'm like, sure. I said, yes, you are. And I said, but however, I've been on earth a little bit longer. So I have to guide you on the earthly things, and
Mm.
then you get to guide on the other things. But,
Yes.
I have to set some boundaries about this earthly life. So it, you know, it, the parenting falls far from mainstream because
Mhm.
star seeds just can't, that's just does not work for them.
Mhm.
They, it will cause all sorts of problems.
So, do you happen to know, I mean, when we talk about star seeds, right, we kind of know sometimes which star systems or previous experiences our souls have had. Has Garrison ever mentioned, or do you have an idea of where he might be from?
We have not, and I haven't shown him a lot. Like, I know people, Arcturian, Palladian,
Mhm.
Syrian. I have not shown him though, in depth or asked where are you from? Uh, I just trust that he is a star seed and just a really, really old soul. So
Mhm.
no, we haven't investigated where I know other kids like come out and say right away where they're
Mhm.
from.
Yeah.
Um, we haven't, but I haven't like put that out there for him to explore as much. I've just settled into. He's, very galactic, and into space and wants to be in space. And that was, someday maybe he'll know which star system or stars he's been to and where he's fully from. But I haven't asked specifically.
Yeah, that's okay. And honestly, I think that when we talk about star seeds, I mean, chances are, if you're a star seed, and I did mention this in the podcast episode where I talk about star seeds, is that you often kind of come from a few places, right? Like your soul is one to jump around. And so you're usually not just from one place, right? You've probably spent some time in many of those different star systems or realms or energy frequencies, whatever you like to call it. So chances are he would resonate with more than one
Yeah,
anyway. Because I know that
that's
for myself, that's the case as well. Yeah.
That's what I think, and he's very drawn to space and the constellations and other planets and other galaxies and what's there, and
Hmm.
so that's why I imagine it may be all drawing him, so he's not quite,
Hmm.
he can't pinpoint a place. One
Yeah.
other thing came to me that I didn't about star seeds, is that I did say that they're great awakeners, and
Hmm.
they are great awakeners of us, they're trying to awaken the planet and their parents especially, and so one thing is they try to awaken us quickly to any dysfunction and things that we need to resolve and clear, and I notice that a lot, that Garrison will mirror very quickly things that I need to shift within my system, things that are unresolved, old conditioned ways of doing or being. Um, and like it will create tension in the dynamic until I'm able to shift and resolve what's unresolved or what's dysfunctional. For them, a lot of ways that we operate on earth or that we've been conditioned to operate is really dysfunctional. So, they will quickly bring that to light, and they don't bring it to light by being say until they're older, like, "Don't do that." They bring it to light by acting out or doing certain things that trigger us, but it's so that we look inside,
Yeah.
figure out where the shift needs to come, so that we bring a different energy or we release that conditioning and operate in a way that's more functional, healthy, and productive, and in a more awakened way, consciousness. They're trying to raise our consciousness. So I do that is one of the main. All kids are waking us up and trying to get us to heal ourselves, but I feel like star seeds, rainbow crystals are just, they are like gonna shine the light on you and mirror until you shift. And
Yeah.
it will be tense and tension and potentially painful until you really resolve what's inside that needs to clear and shift for them to feel like it's functional and healthy for them to thrive.
It's so interesting that you say that because as you're saying that, I'm like seeing the example of that we just experienced with Noah, even just like a couple of weeks ago, where we were all putting him to bed. So we were kind of cuddling in bed, my husband Noah and the baby and I, and we were doing bedtime stories, and we are like, okay, good night, time to go to sleep. And Noah just kind of looked at us and he said, Daddy gets angry when I yell for food, when I scream for food, and that makes Daddy angry. And he says, and when I jump on the bed and throw all the pillows off or hurt Benny, that's when Mommy gets angry. And, and he's like pointing our triggers at us. Like that's when you get angry.
That
And he goes, and I said, "Do you like it when Mommy and Daddy yell?" He goes, "Yeah, I like making you yell." And I
See?
went, "You do?" And he says, "Because you're gonna change it." That's what he said. "You're gonna change it." And both of us, I mean, both Ellie and I just looked at each other and went, "You know what? You're right." Because we don't want to be the type of parents who yell at our kids, right? And I'd like to say I hopefully don't yell at him very often, but sometimes, I'm human and it does come out in a way that I don't want it to. And, it really, we kind of like in that moment made a commitment to know. And we said, we are going to try to do better. Right. And we're not going to yell at you when we do those things. We're going to voice that we're angry instead of showing that we're angry. Right. And
Yeah.
we actually have really been working on that since, and it's been very different at bedtime and when and because of that, then he has shifted, right? Now he doesn't scream at us for food. But it's interesting that you say that. I didn't realize that that could be a trait of a starseed, that he's like, here's your trigger, here's your other one.
Yeah.
So very
Because they
interesting.
want you to wake up fast. I feel
Yeah.
like they are on, like, you're on super speed. I chose you and you're on super speed to awakening because
Yeah.
I need you they need us to awaken to help them thrive and stay on their path, right? So,
Yeah.
no, I love that, and he was so clear that you're gonna change it,
Oh my god, I know. This kid, he's like, "You're gonna grow fast, mom. Like, I'm here, time to wake up." Right?
and you're on super speed too with me. So, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I love that, and he was so at 2, he was so clear.
I know. He's very what's the word? Like he expresses himself very well for his age. It scares us sometimes. We're like, "How do you know this at 2?" Right? Like the things he says. So, but
That's
I'm his mom and I'm biased. So,
And we're all biased.
yeah.
But I it is beautiful when we let our children reflect those things to us, even when it's painful. Because I met like when Garrett recently, Garrison reflected that I was repeating certain patterns around food and body that are very conditioned for me. And I thought I had raised my consciousness, and he clearly there was that default stuff coming through, and it was really painful, the reflection when he called me out,
Mm,
but it needed to happen. And like, I am so grateful that he calls me out even in the moment when it's like feels like a knife in the heart, and but then it means I can grow and I can support him better on his journey. And then that tension that was building because I was in a dysfunctional place starts to dissolve, and we're back in the flow of thriving together and growing together, and me supporting whatever he's here to do.
yeah.
Make a spaceship, I don't know.
That's so beautiful. There's one other question that I have for you before we sort of end it off for today, but you mentioned something sort of in passing at the beginning of this interview, and I want to circle back to it because you had said that you and Garrison play intuitive games and that you actually work on developing his intuition. Can you share a little bit more about what that looks like and maybe offer as an example of what parents can do with their kids?
Yeah. I'll mention a book that has intuitive games in it, where I got some of the ideas from. I think it's called The Intuitive Spark by Sonia Choquette. I always say her name wrong.
Okay. No
It's a
worries, we'll link it in the show
Yeah.
notes.
It does have intuitive games in there. So we do the whole try to read each other's minds game. Um, because we both want to be telepathic. And at moments we are. Like he's like, I was just thinking about that. Why did you bring it up? And I was like, I don't know. It just popped into my head. So it does help you. You're very connected to your child. So it is easy to have,
Yeah.
connect telepathically. But we like to play that game. The
Mhm.
other game we do is cards, where we we close our eyes and he's holding the deck and I am trying to feel into what's the next card
Mm,
or what card he's going to pull out.
okay.
And I like it better when it's not just it's the number and the color. I'm like, we're just going to pick if it's red or black. So we'll
That's
start
fair.
there because that makes you feel a little bit more confident. You got a 50-50 chance of feeling
Yeah.
into the right color.
Mm.
And the reason I like that one is you also start to sense, does red, if you're a feeler, like I feel, does red feel a certain way to me? Does black feel a certain way? Do I see a number or did I hear the number in my head? So it's helping kind of all the intuitive different, you know, clairvoyance, clairaudient, clairsentient, whatever you are, or whatever you're trying to work on a little bit more. It's helping with those. Those are our two, like, that we can do easily, that we always have a deck of cards. We play a lot of cards, and in the car, we do a lot of guess what I'm thinking
I love
about. And um, and then from Intuitive Spark, there are like some just exercises like connecting with your higher self and your spirit. And when your kids are little, like maybe they could start, you could do it at 6 and I think Noah wouldn't write it down, but he could answer the questions, of like, what's his spirit's energy? Like, or, is he a dragon? And the things like Garrison would come up with of like what his spirit feels to him or what he sees in his spirit. Um, it's really interesting what they come up with and how, when you think about it, it is really, wow, that is really his spirit. And he does see his spirit really accurately. And when we do those kind of exercises as a family, he said, oh, I love doing that. And I realized, I was like, see, like our everyday life kind of gets you out of some of that
it.
connection. And he got to go, like, we intentionally were going back to like, what's my spirit? What's my values? What's really important? What am I feeling? What am I seeing? And he really does actually like those. You would think he's now 11. You would think he that would be like, mom. But
Mhm.
when we slow down and do those, he really likes that. Oh, the other thing I would say that's really, it's not an intuitive game, but reading a lot of fantasy, imaginary stuff is really important. And I notice that brings on Garrison's stuff and mine more, is the more you're in your imagination.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and Garrison, he has a lot of imaginary play, and that's actually helped me a lot, like get back into the imaginary world. And it's not imaginary; everything's real. I know people may think that's crazy, but everything is possible, and everything is real. It's just maybe not. There's maybe not dragons right now in our realm, but there
Mhm.
could have been, and there's dragons in another realm. So, um, just really allowing them to continue to open and expand their minds with these creative thoughts, imagination, and all that. I mean, and I'm learning along the way.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And I love that piece as well about encouraging imagination, because the more you encourage imagination, the more we practice our clairvoyance abilities as well and kind of use that part of our brain. And I also agree that all of those things in those stories are real. They're just maybe in a different realm or dimension. So, absolutely. Well, Ariana, this has been so, so beautiful. Thank you so much for coming and agreeing to talk with me and share, all of your beautiful insights about encouraging intuition in your kids. Where can our listeners find you? How can they work with you? Tell us all the things.
Well, you can find me. I have a website. It's Arianna Messplay 33. And under this podcast, the correct spelling of my name will be there, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll
And
link
the
it.
same handle, so that's www.ariannamessplay33.com. And then I'm on Instagram at same handle, Arianna Messplay 33. I'm just getting my Instagram going. I was not big on social media, but I'm realizing that's a way to, you know, get our voice out there and share and be of service. So
Yeah.
I'm getting out there on social media now. Um, and I'm here to support people in any way that I can serve. And the three main ways that I serve is one, with intuitive parenting, supporting parents with their intuitive connection with their children and connecting with themselves so that they can deeply connect with their children and support them along their paths and each child's unique needs and desires. And then number two is that I do support people who are in big life transitions, mainly birth and death, and if you have a loved one transitioning, holding the space for you as that loved one transitions and looking for the spiritual gifts that they are passing along. Because in passing and in birth, there's many, many spiritual gifts that come through if we can expand to see them,
Mhm.
even through the grief. And the grief also brings some beautiful gifts as well. So I support people in picking those seeds out of those experiences and integrating them and helping them along their path by integrating them.
Mhm.
And my main thing I do is angelic healing and intuitive counseling. And that's just, you know, holding a safe and sacred space um, through channeling the angelic realm, connecting you to your angels. And in those sessions, I just, you know, bring through supportive and helpful messages that are needed. And we move through emotional, spiritual blocks that are keeping you from moving, along your path or anything that's been hindering you. And sometimes it's not hindering, it's just you're wanting some more light energy. And that's what I bring. So, yeah, I just love holding safe and sacred space and sharing the angelic energy and love with people.
Yeah, guys, I highly recommend going and checking out all of her offerings. I know that I have benefited so much from working with Ariana, and it really is, it has been life changing. And the information that she channels through from your angels, which remember that we don't just have spirit guides, we have angels as well. And she is on such a high frequency that the angel energy just comes through so strongly and so beautifully. So, if you're wanting to kind of bathe in that angelic light, I highly recommend going and checking out Ariana and all of the things she has to share. Well, thanks again, Ariana. It's been so beautiful having you here. And yeah, bye, guys.
Can I say one more thing?
Please.
I have to say that if I have to put a shout out to you, that anybody listening
Oh,
who is wants a mentor and wants to really hone in their intuitive skills and really connect with their higher self, their spirit guides, and really start to walk, their path in this life and reconnect with themselves, have the confidence to share their gifts. Jessica is your person. Like, I have had a lot of mentors and a lot of guides along my spiritual journey. And it wasn't till my work with Jessica, with you, that I really springboarded and had the confidence to share what I was doing and who I am. So I
no.
really, I can't say enough. And I'm just so grateful for you in my life.
Oh, thank you, Ariana. You're so sweet. And you're going to make me cry. Such a
I'm
sweetheart,
already crying. I've already cried for both of us.
I know. Ah, well, thank you so much. And yes, I guess we did forget to mention that you have been in both my 12-week program and we have done private coaching together. And it's always been so, so beautiful. So, yes. And I have been so honored to walk along this journey with you. And just seeing your gifts grow exponentially in such a short period of time has been so magical. So, and now I find myself seeking you out for spiritual advice all the time and having you channel for me. So, you did it for me just yesterday when I was having issues with Benny. So, she really is, she's so talented. And so, definitely go check her out. And thanks again, Ariana, for being here. We honor you. We love you. Thank you so much.
I love you and love all your listeners, and I'm so honored to be here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.